The 1960s gave us animation legends, but behind every Yogi Bear and Fred Flintstone lurked dozens of forgotten characters who vanished faster than a Saturday morning sugar rush. Some were too weird, others too forgettable, and a few were just plain unlucky. Here are the cartoon casualties that time forgot. Wally Gator. This swamp-dwelling alligator lived in the city zoo, but constantly escaped to cause suburban chaos. Wally spoke with a thick southern drawl and wore a pork pie hat, making him look like a reptilian insurance salesman from Alabama. His catchphrase was, "Oh me, oh my," which perfectly captured his perpetual state of confusion. The character debuted in 1962 as part of the Hanna-Barbera new cartoon series, but unlike his stablemates, Wally never found his audience. Dawes Butler voiced him with the same folksy charm he brought to Yogi Bear, but audiences weren't buying a gator who acted like a country bumpkin. Episodes typically involved Wally escaping the zoo, terrorizing innocent bystanders who mistook him for a dangerous predator, then sheepishly returning home. The formula got old fast. Kids preferred their animal characters either cuddly or menacing, not awkwardly polite. Wally's biggest problem was his complete lack of edge in an era when even Huckleberry Hound had more personality. He represented Hanna-Barbera's factory approach, at its most generic, a character designed by committee to fill airtime rather than capture hearts. Today, Wally Gator exists mainly in animation history books and the occasional nostalgic YouTube compilation. Proof that even in the golden age of cartoons, not every character could strike gold. Tushy Turtle and Dum Dum. Meet the most incompetent knight in cartoon history and his even dumber assistant. Tushy Turtle wielded a sword but couldn't hit the broadside of a medieval barn, while his sheepdog sidekick, Dum Dum, provided muscle and even less brain power. They bumbled through fairy tale adventures with all the grace of a tornado in a china shop. The premise was simple: take classic swashbuckling heroes and make them complete idiots. Touché spoke with an exaggerated French accent that made Pepe Le Pew sound subtle, constantly shouting, "Touché away!" before charging into disaster. Bill Thompson voiced the turtle with manic energy, but the character felt like a pale imitation of better cartoon heroes. Episodes followed a rigid formula where the duo would accept a mission, completely misunderstand the problem, accidentally solve it through sheer stupidity, then take credit they didn't deserve. The animation was notably cheap even by Hanna-Barbera standards, with backgrounds that looked like leftover medieval tapestries. Critics dismissed it as mindless slapstick, and they weren't wrong. The show lasted only one season before disappearing into the vault of forgotten cartoons. Unlike other comedy duos of the era who had chemistry, Touché and Dum Dum felt forced, like characters created to meet a deadline rather than entertain children. Today they're remembered mainly by animation historians and trivia buffs who collect obscure cartoon knowledge like baseball cards. Peter Potmus and Soso. This purple hippo traveled through time with his monkey companion, solving historical problems while creating new ones. Peter's time machine was a hot air balloon that somehow navigated the fourth dimension because cartoon logic trumped actual physics every time. His battle cry was a devastating hippo hurricane holler that could level buildings, making him theoretically the most powerful character in the Hanna-Barbera universe. Yet, despite his godlike abilities, Peter never achieved the popularity of lesser characters. The show debuted in 1964 as part of the Peter Potmus Show, alongside other forgotten gems like Breezley and Sneezley. Dawes Butler voiced Peter with the bombastic energy of a carnival barker, but the time travel gimmick felt gimmicky, even by Saturday morning standards. Episodes typically saw Peter and Soso landing in various historical periods, meeting famous figures, and accidentally changing history before setting things right at the last minute. The problem was educational cartoon fatigue. Kids were getting tired of shows that tried to sneak learning into their entertainment, preferring pure comedy or action. Peter's historically accurate adventures felt like homework, disguised as fun. The character design was also problematic, with Peter resembling a giant purple bean more than an intimidating hippo. Modern viewers might recognize his voice actor from more successful roles, but Peter Potmus himself remains a footnote in animation history, proof that even unlimited power can't guarantee cartoon immortality. Breezley Polar Bear and Sneezley Seal. These Arctic troublemakers spent their days trying to infiltrate Camp Frostbite, a remote military base where they hoped to find warmth and food. Breezley was the mastermind with big dreams and small brain, while Sneezley's constant sneezing provided both comic relief and plot complications. Their nemesis was Colonel Fuzzby, a by-the-book military man who somehow never managed to permanently evict two homeless Arctic animals from his highly secure facility. The premise had potential, mixing military comedy with animal antics, but execution fell flat. Howard Morris voiced Breezley with manic energy, borrowed from his Ernest T. Bass character on The Andy Griffith Show, but the translation to animation lost most of its charm. Episodes followed a predictable pattern. Breezley would devise an elaborate scheme to enter the base. Sneezley would accidentally sabotage it with an ill-timed sneeze. They'd get caught and expelled. Rinse and repeat. The show aired as part of the Potmus show in 1964, but never found its audience. Critics noted the repetitive storylines and lack of character development, though children initially enjoyed the slapstick humor. The Arctic setting limited story possibilities, and writers struggled to create variety within such a confined environment. Unlike other Hanna-Barbera duos who had chemistry and complementary personalities, Breezley and Sneezley felt like one joke stretched over an entire series. Today they're remembered mainly by completist animation fans and occasional boomerang reruns that play to empty living rooms. Yippi, Yappi, and Yahooi. These three incompetent palace guards protected their king through a combination of blind luck and accidental heroism. Yippi was the leader who took charge without thinking. Yappi was the nervous middleman who worried about everything. And Yahooi was the strong silent type who communicated mainly through action and occasional grunts. They operated like a medieval Three Stooges, but without the physical comedy genius that made the Stooges legendary. The trio appeared as segments on the Potmus show, sharing airtime with other forgotten characters in Hanna-Barbera's anthology format. Hal Smith voiced Yippi with theatrical pomposity, while Doug Young and Don Messick handled his companions with less memorable results. Their king was a childlike monarch who created problems through royal whims and terrible decision-making, leaving his guards to clean up the mess. Episodes typically involve threats to the kingdom, followed by the guards' bumbling attempts at heroism that somehow saved the day despite their incompetence. The medieval setting felt dated even in the 1960s, when kids were more interested in space-age adventures and modern suburban comedies. The character designs were uninspired, looking like generic cartoon dogs dressed in pseudo-medieval costumes. Critics dismissed the trio as derivative and unfunny, noting their obvious debt to more successful comedy teams. Unlike Hanna-Barbera's hit characters, who had distinctive personalities and memorable catchphrases, these three blended together into a forgettable mass of mediocrity. Today they exist mainly in animation archives and the memories of viewers who watched everything on Saturday mornings because there were only 3 channels. Squidly Diddly. This musical octopus lived in an aquarium, but dreamed of stardom on dry land. Squidly played multiple instruments simultaneously thanks to his 8 arms, creating one-man orchestras that impressed nobody except himself. His eternal struggle was escaping the aquarium to pursue show business, only to discover that landlubbers found giant cephalopods terrifying rather than entertaining. The character appeared as part of the Secret Squirrel show in 1965, sharing airtime with other forgotten gems from Hanna-Barbera's mid-decade output. Paul Frees voiced Squidly with smooth confidence, giving the octopus more charisma than his situations deserved. The premise had potential for satire about show business and the entertainment industry, but writers played it strictly for kids with simple slapstick and predictable storylines. Episodes followed a rigid formula. Squidly would escape the aquarium, attempt to showcase his talents, terrify audiences who saw only a giant sea monster, then return home disappointed but undaunted. The problem was tonal confusion. Was this a story about following your dreams or accepting your limitations? The show never decided, leaving audiences equally confused. Critics noted the wasted potential and repetitive storylines, while children found Squidly's musical numbers entertaining, but his failures depressing. The character design was visually striking, but ultimately unmemorable, lacking the iconic simplicity of more successful cartoon animals. Modern viewers might appreciate the show's unintentional commentary on artistic ambition versus public acceptance, but 1960s audiences just found it forgettable. Today, Squidly Diddly exists mainly in animation history discussions and the occasional nostalgic blog post about forgotten cartoons. Precious Pup. This mangy dog was television's most two-faced pet, acting like an angel around his elderly owner, Granny Sweet, while terrorizing the neighborhood behind her back. Precious never spoke, communicating through actions and his signature wheezing laugh that would later become famous as Muttley's trademark chuckle. The comedy came from dramatic irony, as viewers knew Precious was a holy terror, while Granny remained blissfully unaware of her pet's true nature. The character appeared as part of the Adam Ant Show in 1965, sharing screen time with other Hanna-Barbera creations that have since vanished into obscurity. Don Messick provided Precious's minimal vocalizations, mainly consisting of that memorable wheezing laugh and occasional barks. Janet Waldo voiced Granny Sweet as a kindly but oblivious pet owner who saw only the good in her beloved companion. Episodes typically showed Precious causing havoc in the neighborhood, then rushing home to act innocent when Granny returned. The premise was solid but limited, offering little room for character development or story variation. Critics noted the show's repetitive nature and lack of genuine heart, comparing it unfavorably to more successful pet comedies of the era. The character design was deliberately unappealing, making Precious look more like a mangy stray than a beloved family pet. Unlike other cartoon animals who were obviously lovable despite their flaws, Precious seemed genuinely unpleasant, which may have turned off younger viewers. The show's saving grace was its moral ambiguity, presenting a pet who wasn't entirely good or evil, but simply mischievous. Today, Precious Pup is remembered mainly for contributing his laugh to the more successful Muttley character, and as an example of Hanna-Barbera's hit-or-miss approach to character creation, the Hillbilly Bears. These backwoods Bruins lived in the mountains and talked like refugees from a Lil Abner comic strip. The family consisted of Pa Rug, the lazy patriarch who avoided work like the plague, Ma Rug, the long-suffering wife who did all the cooking and cleaning, Floral, their teenage daughter who dreamed of modern civilization, and Shog, their beatnik son, who played guitar and spoke in hip slang. The Bears appeared as segments on The Adam Ant Show, representing Hanna-Barbera's attempt to capitalize on the popularity of rural comedy shows like the Beverly Hillbillies. Henry Corden voiced Paul Rugg as a classic lazy husband archetype, while Jean Vander Prill played Ma with weary resignation. Episodes typically involved the family's encounters with modern technology or city folk, played for fish-out-of-water comedy that felt tired even in 1965. The show's biggest problem was cultural insensitivity, presenting rural Americans as ignorant stereotypes rather than fully realized characters. Critics noted the lazy writing and offensive caricatures, while civil rights activists complained about the perpetuation of harmful stereotypes about Appalachian communities. The character designs were uninspired, looking like generic cartoon bears dressed in hillbilly costumes rather than distinctive personalities. Unlike the Flintstones, which used prehistoric settings to comment on modern suburban life, the Hillbilly Bears offered no satirical insight beyond country folk are different from city folk. The show's attempts at social commentary fell flat, coming across as condescending rather than clever. Modern viewers would likely find the cultural stereotypes offensive, while 1960s audiences found them merely boring. Today, the Hillbilly Bears are remembered mainly as an example of animation's less enlightened past, and Hanna-Barbera's willingness to exploit any popular trend for cartoon material. Winsome Witch. This friendly sorceress tried to use magic to help people, but invariably made situations worse through supernatural incompetence. Winsome's catchphrase was "Ippity-pippity-pow," which she shouted while casting spells that never worked as intended. Her flying broomstick had a mind of its own, often refusing to cooperate at crucial moments. The character appeared as part of The Secret Squirrel Show in 1965, during Hanna-Barbera's prolific mid-decade period. Jean Vander Peel voiced Winsome with sweet sincerity, making her magical failures seem endearing rather than frustrating. The premise combined supernatural comedy with traditional slapstick, but execution was inconsistent. Episodes typically showed Winsome attempting to help someone with magic, accidentally creating bigger problems, then scrambling to fix her mistakes before anyone got hurt. The show's biggest weakness was its repetitive formula and lack of magical creativity. Unlike other cartoon witches who had distinctive personalities and memorable powers, Winsome felt generic and forgettable. Critics noted the wasted potential in the magical premise, suggesting that writers treated witchcraft as just another gimmick rather than exploring its comedic possibilities. The character design was pleasant but unmemorable, looking like every other cartoon witch without distinctive features or iconic accessories. The show's attempts at teaching moral lessons about helping others felt forced and preachy, lacking the subtle touch that made other educational cartoons successful. Modern viewers might appreciate Winsome's positive attitude and good intentions, but 1960s audiences found her magical mishaps more tedious than entertaining. Today, Winsome Witch exists mainly in animation archives and the memories of completist cartoon fans who watched everything on Saturday mornings, regardless of quality. Lippy the Lion and Hardy Har Har. This mismatched comedy duo featured an optimistic lion with big dreams and a pessimistic hyena who saw disaster in every plan. Lippy was the eternal schemer who believed his next idea would make them rich and famous, while Hardy provided gloomy reality checks that Lippy consistently ignored. Their partnership was built on fundamental incompatibility, with Lippy's enthusiasm constantly clashing with Hardy's negativity. The characters appeared as part of the Hanna-Barbera new cartoon series in 1962, sharing airtime with other forgotten gems from the studio's prolific period. Dawes Butler voiced Lippy with manic optimism, while Mel Blanc provided Hardy's distinctive pessimistic drawl. Episodes typically showed Lippy hatching get-rich-quick schemes that Hardy predicted would fail spectacularly, and they always did. The comedy came from the predictability of failure and the character's inability to learn from past mistakes. Critics noted the show's repetitive nature and lack of character growth, comparing it unfavorably to more successful comedy duos of the era. The character designs were uninspired, looking like generic cartoon animals without distinctive features or memorable accessories. Unlike other Hanna-Barbera duos who had genuine chemistry and complementary personalities, Lippy and Hardy felt forced together by writers rather than natural partnership. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about optimism versus realism felt heavy-handed and obvious. Modern viewers might appreciate the existential comedy of characters trapped in endless cycles of failure, but 1960s audiences found their failures more depressing than funny. Today, Lippy the Lion and Hardy Har Har are remembered mainly by animation historians and trivia enthusiasts who collect knowledge about forgotten cartoons like Rare Coins, Ricochet Rabbit, and Droopalong. These Western lawmen protected the frontier town of Hoop and Holler through a combination of superhuman speed and spectacular incompetence. Ricochet could bounce off walls and buildings like a furry pinball, while his deputy Droopalong provided backup support and comic relief through his perpetual sleepiness. The premise mixed traditional Western themes with supernatural powers, creating a unique but ultimately forgettable combination. The characters appeared as segments on The Magilla Gorilla Show in 1964, sharing screen time with other Hanna-Barbera creations during the studio's anthology period. Don Messick voiced Ricochet with hyperactive energy, while Mel Blanc provided Droopalong's drowsy delivery. Episodes typically involved outlaws threatening the town, followed by Ricochet's bouncing pursuit that caused more property damage than the original crime. The show's biggest weakness was its limited premise and repetitive action sequences. Critics noted the lack of character development and predictable storylines, while children initially enjoyed the visual spectacle of Ricochet's bouncing abilities. The character designs were visually striking but ultimately unmemorable, lacking the iconic simplicity of more successful cartoon heroes. Unlike other Western-themed cartoons that offered satirical commentary on the genre, Ricochet Rabbit played its premise completely straight, without irony or self-awareness. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about law enforcement and justice felt forced and simplistic. Modern viewers might appreciate the surreal visual comedy of a bouncing rabbit sheriff, but 1960s audiences found the novelty wore off quickly. Today, Ricochet Rabbit and Droopalong exist mainly in animation archives and the occasional nostalgic discussion about forgotten Western cartoons that try to compete with more established franchises. Puss and Mushmouse. This cat and mouse duo lived in the rural South and spoke with exaggerated hillbilly accents that made the Hillbilly Bears sound sophisticated. Puss was the lazy feline who spent his days trying to catch Mushmouse through elaborate schemes that always backfired spectacularly. Their dynamic was clearly inspired by Tom and Jerry, but without the silent sophistication that made that series timeless. The characters appeared as segments on The Magilla Gorilla Show in 1964, during Hanna-Barbera's period of rapid expansion and character multiplication. Alan Melvin voiced Puss with rural charm, while Howard Morris provided Mushmouse's squeaky delivery. Episodes followed the traditional cat and mouse formula, but added rural settings and dialect humor that felt dated even in the 1960s. The show's biggest problem was its obvious derivation from more successful properties without adding anything new or distinctive. Critics noted the lazy writing and offensive stereotypes, while children found the characters less appealing than their more famous counterparts. The character designs were uninspired, looking like generic cartoon animals dressed in hillbilly costumes rather than unique personalities. Unlike Tom and Jerry, whose wordless conflicts felt universal and timeless, Puss and Mushmouse were anchored to specific cultural stereotypes that limited their appeal. The show's attempts at regional humor felt condescending to rural audiences and confusing to urban viewers. Modern audiences would likely find the cultural stereotypes offensive, while 1960s viewers found them merely boring compared to more innovative cartoons. Today, Puss and Mushmouse are remembered mainly as examples of Hanna-Barbera's willingness to recycle successful formulas without understanding what made them work originally. The Adam Ant Show. This miniature superhero possessed the strength of 20 men and could fly faster than most jets, making him theoretically one of the most powerful beings in the cartoon universe. Adam Ant operated from a secret laboratory hidden beneath his anthill, complete with sophisticated computers and crime-fighting equipment that would make Batman jealous. His catchphrase was, "Up and Adam Ant," which he shouted while flying to rescue civilians and capture criminals. The character appeared as the lead segment on The Adam Ant Show in 1965, representing Hanna-Barbera's attempt to capitalize on the superhero boom of the mid-1960s. Howard Morris voiced Adam Ant with enthusiastic energy, giving the tiny hero more personality than his simple premise deserved. Episodes typically involved various criminals threatening innocent people, followed by Adam Ant's swift intervention and inevitable victory. The show's biggest weakness was its formulaic storytelling and lack of compelling villains. Critics noted the repetitive nature of the adventures and the characters' overpowered abilities that made conflicts feel predetermined. Unlike other superhero cartoons that explored themes of responsibility and sacrifice, Adam Ant offered only simple good versus evil scenarios without deeper meaning. The character design was memorable, but limiting, making Adam Ant look more like a mascot than a serious superhero. The show's attempts at teaching moral lessons about helping others felt superficial and obvious. Modern viewers might appreciate the absurdity of an all-powerful aunt fighting human criminals, but 1960s audiences found the concept too silly to take seriously. Today, Adam Ant is remembered mainly by superhero completists and animation historians who study the evolution of cartoon crime fighters. Secret Squirrel and Morocco Mole. This espionage duo parodied the spy genre that was popular in 1960s television and movies. Secret Squirrel was the smooth-talking secret agent who relied on high-tech gadgets and martial arts skills, while Morocco Mole served as his bumbling but loyal sidekick, who often accidentally saved the day. Their adventures took them around the world, fighting international criminals and mad scientists bent on world domination. The characters appeared as the lead segment on The Secret Squirrel Show in 1965, during the height of spy fiction popularity triggered by James Bond movies and television shows, like The Man from UNCLE. Mel Blanc voiced Secret Squirrel with suave confidence, while Paul Frees provided Morocco Mole's distinctive accent and nervous energy. Episodes typically involved elaborate criminal plots that threatened world peace, followed by the duo's investigation and eventual triumph through a combination of skill and luck. The show's strength was its satirical approach to spy fiction, but its weakness was inconsistent tone that never decided whether to play the genre straight or completely for laughs. Critics noted the show's potential for clever parody that was often undermined by formulaic plotting and juvenile humor. The character designs were distinctive and memorable, giving Secret Squirrel an iconic look that stood out from other cartoon animals. Unlike other spy parodies that maintained consistent satirical tone, Secret Squirrel alternated between serious adventure and silly comedy in ways that confused audiences. Modern viewers might appreciate the show's prescient parody of spy fiction cliches, but 1960s audiences found the tonal inconsistency frustrating. Today, Secret Squirrel is remembered fondly by animation fans who appreciate its ambitious attempt to satirize adult entertainment for children's audiences. Space Cadets. These pint-sized space explorers lived in the far future where children piloted their own spaceships and fought cosmic criminals without adult supervision. The team consisted of Scooter, the brave leader, Snoopy, the cowardly member who preferred reading to adventure, Countdown, the robot who provided technical support, and Jenny, the token female who was surprisingly competent despite 1960s gender stereotypes. Their nemesis was Captain Skyhook, a bumbling space pirate who threatened the galaxy with his incompetent schemes. The show appeared as segments on various Hanna-Barbera anthology programs in 1966, during the studio's space-age phase triggered by real-world space exploration excitement. Chris Allen voiced Scooter with youthful enthusiasm, while Lucille Bliss provided Jenny's determined delivery. Episodes typically involved the cadets discovering Skyhook's latest plot, then using teamwork and clever thinking to stop him before he could cause serious damage. The show's strength was its positive portrayal of children as capable heroes, but its weakness was limited storytelling possibilities within the space setting. Critics noted the show's educational aspirations and attempts to promote scientific literacy, but found the execution too simplistic for meaningful learning. The character designs were colorful and appealing, giving each cadet distinctive personality traits and visual characteristics. Unlike other space-themed cartoons that focused on adult heroes, Space Cadets empowered children as the primary protagonists and problem-solvers. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about cooperation and scientific thinking felt natural rather than forced. Modern viewers might appreciate the show's progressive gender dynamics and multicultural casting, but 1960s audiences found the space setting less compelling than Earthbound adventures. Today, Space Cadets are remembered mainly by science fiction fans and animation historians who study the evolution of children's space adventure programming, Sinbad Jr. and his magic belt. This diminutive sailor inherited his father's legendary name, but relied on magical accessories rather than physical strength to overcome obstacles. Sinbad Jr.'s magic belt could summon various powers and creatures to help him navigate dangerous situations, making him more of a magical problem solver than a traditional adventure hero. His companion was Salty the Parrot, who provided comic relief and occasional wisdom during their nautical adventures. The character appeared in his own series in 1965, representing Hanna-Barbera's attempt to create educational entertainment that taught children about geography and world cultures. Tim Matheson voiced Sinbad Jr. with youthful optimism, while Mel Blanc provided Salty's distinctive parrot delivery. Episodes typically involved the duo discovering new lands and cultures, while helping people solve problems through magic and ingenuity. The show's strength was its educational content and positive multicultural themes, but its weakness was formulaic storytelling that made adventures feel predictable. Critics praised the show's attempts to teach children about different cultures and geographic locations, but noted the superficial treatment of complex topics. The character designs were appealing and distinctive, giving Sinbad Jr. an iconic look that stood out from other cartoon heroes. Unlike other adventure cartoons that relied on violence and conflict, Sinbad Jr. emphasized peaceful problem-solving and cultural understanding. The show's attempts at teaching moral lessons about tolerance and cooperation felt natural and unforced. Modern viewers might appreciate the show's progressive multicultural themes and nonviolent approach to conflict resolution. But 1960s audiences found the educational content too obvious and preachy. Today, Sinbad Jr. is remembered mainly by educators and animation historians who study the development of educational children's programming and its influence on later cartoon series. Dino Boy in the Lost Valley. This modern teenager was stranded in a prehistoric world populated by dinosaurs and cavemen, creating a unique blend of contemporary and ancient themes. Todd was the resourceful boy who used modern knowledge to survive in primitive surroundings, while Auggie was his caveman companion, who provided protection and local expertise. Together, they faced various dinosaur threats and tribal conflicts in their ongoing quest to find Todd's way back to civilization. The character appeared as segments on The Space Ghost Show in 1966, sharing screen time with the more popular titular hero during Hanna-Barbera's superhero phase. Johnny Carson, not the talk show host, voiced Todd with appropriate teenage determination, while Mike Road provided Auggie's guttural caveman delivery. Episodes typically involved dinosaur attacks or tribal conflicts that required both modern ingenuity and primitive survival skills to overcome. The show's strength was its unique premise that combined educational content about prehistoric life with adventure storytelling, but its weakness was limited character development and repetitive scenarios. Critics noted the show's potential for teaching children about evolution and natural history, but found the scientific content too simplified for meaningful education. The character designs were distinctive and memorable, creating convincing prehistoric environments and believable dinosaur threats. Unlike other time travel cartoons that played their premises for comedy, Dino Boy treated its prehistoric setting with appropriate seriousness and respect for scientific accuracy. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about adaptation and resourcefulness felt natural within the survival context. Modern viewers might appreciate the show's proto-environmental themes and respect for indigenous cultures, but 1960s audiences found the prehistoric setting less appealing than space-age adventures. Today, Dino Boy is remembered mainly by animation fans who appreciate its unique premise and paleontology enthusiasts who study early attempts to present prehistoric life in children's entertainment. The Impossibles. This rock band moonlighted as superheroes, using their musical instruments as crime-fighting weapons and their performance skills to infiltrate criminal organizations. The team consisted of Multi-Man, who could duplicate himself, Fluid Man, who could transform into any liquid state, and Coil Man, who could stretch his body like a spring. When not fighting crime, they performed as a popular musical group that traveled the world entertaining audiences. The characters appeared as segments on Frankenstein Jr. and The Impossibles in 1966, during Hanna-Barbera's superhero boom period triggered by the Batman television series' success. Hal Smith voiced Multi-Man with energetic enthusiasm, while Don Messick and Paul Frees provided the other band members' distinctive personalities. Episodes typically alternated between musical performances and superhero adventures, with the team switching between entertainment and law enforcement as circumstances required. The show's strength was its innovative combination of superhero action with contemporary music themes, but its weakness was tonal inconsistency that never fully integrated the dual concepts. Critics noted the show's ambitious attempt to blend different genres, but found the execution uneven and confusing for target audiences. The character designs were colorful and distinctive, giving each band member unique visual characteristics and powers that translated well to animation. Unlike other superhero cartoons that focused exclusively on crime fighting, The Impossibles explored themes of artistic expression and celebrity responsibility. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about teamwork and using talents to help others felt natural within the dual identity context. Modern viewers might appreciate the show's prescient commentary on celebrity culture and media responsibility, but 1960s audiences found the musical elements distracting from superhero action. Today, The Impossibles are remembered mainly by animation historians and music fans who study the intersection of popular culture and children's entertainment. Frankenstein Jr. This giant robot was created by a young boy genius who used advanced science to build the ultimate mechanical protector. Buzz Conroy was the brilliant teenager who controlled Frankenstein Jr. through sophisticated remote devices, directing the robot's actions during various emergencies and criminal threats. The robot possessed incredible strength and durability, making him virtually unstoppable when defending innocent people from danger. The character appeared as segments on Frankenstein Jr. and The Impossibles in 1966, representing Hanna-Barbera's attempt to capitalize on both superhero popularity and emerging robot themes in science fiction. Dick Beals voiced Buzz with appropriate teenage enthusiasm, while Ted Cassidy provided Frankenstein Jr.'s distinctive robotic delivery. Episodes typically involved various threats to public safety that required the robot's intervention, followed by spectacular action sequences showcasing his abilities. The show's strength was its impressive animation of giant robot action, but its weakness was formulaic storytelling that made conflicts feel predetermined. Critics noted the show's technical ambitions and impressive visual effects for television animation, but found the character development lacking depth and complexity. The character design was iconic and memorable, creating a distinctive robot appearance that influenced later mechanical characters in animation and live-action entertainment. Unlike other robot-themed cartoons that explored artificial intelligence themes, Frankenstein Jr. focused primarily on action and spectacle without deeper philosophical content. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about science and technology felt superficial and obvious rather than genuinely educational. Modern viewers might appreciate the show's impressive animation techniques and prescient robot themes, but 1960s audiences found the giant robot concept too fantastic for sustained interest. Today, Frankenstein Jr. is remembered mainly by robot enthusiasts and animation fans who appreciate its technical achievements and influence on later mechanical character designs. Shag Rug. This beatnik teenager was the most memorable member of the Hillbilly Bears family, speaking in hip slang while playing guitar and rejecting his family's traditional mountain lifestyle. Shag represented the generational conflict between old-fashioned rural values and modern youth culture, making him a surprisingly progressive character for 1960s children's television. His musical performances often provided comic relief during family conflicts and cultural misunderstandings. The character appeared as part of the Hillbilly Bears segments on The Adam Ant Show in 1965, during Hanna-Barbera's period of rapid character development and cultural commentary. Don Messick voiced Shag with appropriate teenage rebellion and musical enthusiasm, distinguishing him from his more traditional family members. Episodes typically involved conflicts between Shag's modern interests and his family's old-fashioned expectations, resolved through understanding and compromise. The character's strength was his representation of changing youth culture and musical innovation, but his weakness was limited development beyond surface-level generational conflict. Critics noted the character's potential for exploring themes of cultural change and family dynamics, but found the treatment too superficial for meaningful social commentary. The character design was distinctive and memorable, giving Shag visual characteristics that clearly identified him as different from his traditional family members. Unlike other teenage characters who simply rebelled against authority, Shag maintained respect for his family while pursuing his own interests and identity. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about understanding generational differences felt natural within the family context. Modern viewers might appreciate the character's progressive representation of youth culture and artistic expression, but 1960s audiences found the generational conflict themes too complex for simple entertainment. Today, Shag Rug is remembered mainly by animation historians and music fans who study early representations of youth culture in children's television programming. Yaki Doodle Duck. This eternally optimistic duckling believed everyone in the world was his friend, despite constant evidence to the contrary from predators who saw him as dinner rather than a pal. Yaki's unwavering faith in universal goodness made him both endearing and frustrating, as he walked into obvious danger while trusting everyone he met. His protector was Chopper the Bulldog, who spent most of his time rescuing Yaki from situations the duck was too naive to recognize as threats. The character appeared as segments on The Yogi Bear Show in 1961, sharing airtime with more popular Hanna-Barbera creations during the studio's peak period. Jimmy Weldon voiced Yaki with childlike innocence that made his optimism believable, while Vance Colvig provided Chopper's gruff but protective delivery. Episodes typically involved Yaki wandering into danger while making friends with predators, followed by Chopper's frantic efforts to save him from becoming someone's meal. The show's strength was its genuine heart and positive message about friendship, but its weakness was repetitive scenarios that became predictable after multiple viewings. Critics noted the character's appeal to very young viewers, but found the naive optimism unrealistic and potentially dangerous as a life lesson. Hokey Wolf. This smooth-talking predator styled himself as a gentleman con artist, speaking with sophisticated vocabulary while plotting schemes to catch his next meal. Hokey's elaborate plans always backfired spectacularly, leaving him hungrier and more frustrated than when he started. His sidekick was Ding-a-ling Wolf, a dim-witted companion who accidentally sabotaged every scheme through well-meaning incompetence. The character appeared as segments on The Huckleberry Hound Show, starting in 1960, replacing Yogi Bear when that character graduated to his own series. Dawes Butler voiced Hokey with cultured charm, borrowed from classic movie villains, while Doug Young provided Ding-a-ling's simple-minded delivery. Episodes typically showed Hokey devising elaborate hunting schemes that Ding-a-ling would unwittingly destroy through clumsiness or misunderstanding. The show's strength was Butler's sophisticated voice work that elevated the material above simple slapstick, but its weakness was formulaic plotting that made outcomes predictable. Critics noted the character's potential for satirizing sophistication and intellectualism, but found the execution too focused on repetitive failure rather than clever comedy. The character design was distinctive and memorable, giving Hokey visual sophistication that matched his verbal pretensions, while making Ding-a-ling obviously simpler. Unlike other predator-prey cartoons that relied on silent visual comedy, Hokey Wolf emphasized verbal humor and character interaction over physical slapstick. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about the futility of elaborate schemes felt natural within the comedy context. Modern viewers might appreciate Hokey's sophisticated dialogue and cultured pretensions, but 1960s audiences found his constant failures more frustrating than funny. Today, Hokey Wolf is remembered mainly by voice acting enthusiasts who appreciate Dawes Butler's performance and animation historians who study character evolution in Hanna-Barbera productions. Snagglepuss. This pink mountain lion fancied himself a dramatic actor, speaking in theatrical language peppered with stage directions and literary references that went over most viewers' heads. Snagglepuss lived in a cave but yearned for sophisticated urban culture, making him a surprisingly complex character for children's television. His catchphrases included "exit, stage left," and "even," which he used to punctuate his overly dramatic dialogue. The character first appeared as a villain in Quick Draw McGraw episodes before graduating to his own segments on The Yogi Bear Show in 1961. Dawes Butler voiced Snagglepuss with theatrical flair borrowed from classic stage actors, creating a distinctive delivery that influenced countless imitators. Episodes typically involve Snagglepuss attempting to pursue high culture, while facing various disruptions from less sophisticated characters who failed to appreciate his artistic sensibilities. The show's strength was its sophisticated humor that worked on multiple levels for different age audiences, but its weakness was cultural references that went over children's heads. Critics praised Butler's voice performance and the character's literary ambitions, but noted that much of the humor was too advanced for the target demographic. The character design was iconic and memorable, with Snagglepuss's pink coloring and bow tie giving him instant visual distinction from other cartoon animals. Unlike other Hanna-Barbera characters, who were broadly appealing to all ages, Snagglepuss seemed designed more for adults who appreciated theatrical and literary humor. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about pursuing artistic dreams felt genuine and encouraging, rather than preachy or obvious. Modern viewers often cite Snagglepuss as ahead of his time, with sophisticated dialogue and cultural commentary that feels more contemporary than most 1960s children's programming. Today, Snagglepuss enjoys cult status among animation fans and has been subject to modern reinterpretation as a complex character dealing with identity and artistic ambition. Auggie Doggy and Doggy Daddy. This father-son duo represented the generational gap through the relationship between an intellectual puppy and his simple-minded but loving father. Auggie was the brilliant young dog who used sophisticated vocabulary and scientific knowledge, while Doggy Daddy was the well-meaning parent who didn't understand his son's intelligence but supported him anyway. Their dynamic explored themes of family love, transcending intellectual differences. The characters appeared as segments on The Quick Draw McGraw Show, starting in 1959, during Hanna-Barbera's early period of character development and family-themed storytelling. Dawes Butler voiced Auggie with precocious intelligence that never felt condescending, while Doug Young provided Doggy Daddy's simple but heartfelt delivery. Episodes typically involved Augie's intellectual pursuits conflicting with his father's simpler worldview, resolved through mutual understanding and family affection. The show's strength was its genuine portrayal of family relationships and generational differences, but its weakness was limited conflict potential within such a loving family dynamic. Critics praised the positive family values and touching relationship between the characters, but noted the lack of dramatic tension that limited storytelling possibilities. The character designs were appealing and distinctive, giving both characters visual characteristics that clearly conveyed their personality differences while maintaining family resemblance. Unlike other cartoon families that relied on the conflict and misunderstanding for humor, Auggie and Doggy Daddy represented unconditional love and mutual respect despite their differences. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about family acceptance and intellectual tolerance felt natural and unforced within the relationship context. Modern viewers often cite the duo as representing ideal father-son relationships, with Doggy Daddy's unconditional support for his son's interests serving as a positive parenting model. Today, Auggie Doggy and Doggy Daddy are remembered fondly by animation fans who appreciate their unique place in cartoon history as perhaps the most loving family relationship ever animated, though their lack of conflict made them less memorable than more combative cartoon families. Captain Caveman. This prehistoric superhero possessed incredible strength and a utility belt filled with anachronistic gadgets hidden in his massive hair. Captain Caveman could fly, despite lacking wings, and solve modern crimes using Stone Age logic that somehow worked better than contemporary investigation methods. His battle cry of Captain Caveman echoed across centuries as he protected innocent people from various threats. The character actually debuted in the late 1970s, but was conceived during the 1960s superhero boom, representing Hanna-Barbera's attempt to create a unique hero who combined prehistoric themes with modern crime fighting. Mel Blanc voiced Captain Caveman with primitive enthusiasm that made his anachronistic abilities seem believable within the cartoon universe. Episodes typically involved time-displaced adventures where prehistoric and modern elements collided in ways that defied logic but entertained children. The show's strength was its unique premise that distinguished it from other superhero cartoons, but its weakness was the inherent absurdity that limited serious character development. Critics noted the character's appeal to young viewers who enjoyed the visual comedy of prehistoric technology solving modern problems. The character design was instantly iconic, with Captain Caveman's massive hair and club creating a distinctive silhouette that became immediately recognizable. Unlike other prehistoric-themed cartoons that played their settings for pure comedy, Captain Caveman treated his superhero role with appropriate seriousness, despite the absurd premise. The show's attempts at teaching lessons about using natural abilities to help others felt genuine within the superhero context. Modern viewers might appreciate the character's environmental themes and respect for indigenous cultures, though the prehistoric stereotypes feel dated. Today, Captain Caveman enjoys cult status among superhero fans and animation enthusiasts who appreciate his unique place in cartoon history as perhaps the most anachronistic hero ever created, bridging prehistoric and modern themes in ways that shouldn't work but somehow do. Which of these forgotten souls do you remember from your childhood Saturday mornings? Did any of them deserve better than their obscure fate? Or were they rightfully forgotten in animation's relentless march toward perfection? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's resurrect these cartoon casualties one nostalgic memory at a time.